We don't have the luxury of staying silent anymore. It's just not a luxury we have. Some people are not political, they're not active, that's fine, but things are getting too serious. Adam Kinzinger basically continued this pattern I've seen of officials, entertainment industry, education, all of these elitists openly disregarding the possibility of nuclear war. You would think, and I'm transitioning over to Russia, Ukraine, you would think that our number one concern would be avoiding conflict. And however that needs to be done behind the scenes, that doesn't have to be communicated to everyone, but you would hope that communication to the world and American people wouldn't be, don't be afraid of nuclear warfare, we have to defend Ukraine. That's the message right now. That is the message that these people are portraying all over the place right now. I mean, they're almost to the point where if you disagree with that message, you are pro-Putin and you are disinformation, you're misinformation, you should be banned. I mean, we're almost at that point. Just having the take of, I don't care about either country, I hope we don't want nuclear war, right? That's becoming a radical take, or they're trying to portray it as such. The only way they can portray it as radical is if people stay silent. And they might not know what's going on. You got to go tell a friend or communicate, and this has to stop. At some point we have to put our foot down and say, I don't care about the blue team or the red team or these other interests I have. If you are recklessly calling for nuclear war, you need to stop. Otherwise, we need to get you out of office. We have to show that level of interest. We have been spoiled with all of our riches and the peaceful times we've had. We haven't really been in stressful times. If you're listening, they're warning us. That's not going to continue. That's not from me. That's from BlackRock. That's from Biden. Even Biden is saying it. So it's going to be worse than we're going into a midterm. If Biden is talking about the inflation and the famine and all that, and they didn't just say it will hit the poorer countries first. So basically they're saying our interests in Ukraine are worth more than the lives in third world countries that we know they're going to starve out. Like, period, just choke out and starve out. They know that. They're like, okay, Ukraine's more important than that. But they didn't say it just regulated to them. They know that's going to hit us potentially as well down the road. Not that far down the road either. But what really got me amped up, I like this twitchy.com. Anybody else use this? It's just like basically what I'm doing. You see something on Twitter and you make a news article out of it. It's a great idea. So Sarah D on this Twitchy website says, what a shame that Adam Kinzinger doesn't want to stick around in Congress. With him gone, we'll have to find another bonehead Republican resistant representative to point and laugh at. I'm not at a laughing mood with this in particular. I'll find something else to laugh at later in the day. Don't get me wrong. I'm not laughing at this, though. Adam Kinzinger tweets, there are so many who say Russia is trying to draw us into war and America is the most heroic in restraint. Nonsense. If Russia wants to provoke, they will, but Putin fears NATO. This is the first war where an alliance can stop it in a few days, but fears a weaker enemy. I'm going to read the other tweet, then come back to these. If we let nukes prevent us from action, then expect literally every country to try to get nukes in the next few years. So what he's done here is try to start out with reverse psychology. There are so many who say Russia is trying to draw us into war and America is almost heroic in restraint. So it's reverse psychology. You might use it on your kids or other people. It's very common. They're saying, hey, America, they're saying like, oh, yeah, your restraint to not get involved is heroic. They want to make you think, oh, that's not heroic. Getting our young men and women involved in direct conflict with Russia is what Adam considers heroic. Over what? What are the interests in Ukraine? They have not laid out anything that would convince me as an American citizen as to why I should give a damn about Ukraine. Don't want to see anybody die or be displaced. But that happens all over the world. Why are you so concerned about Ukraine all of a sudden? That literally is happening all over the world. It's happening in other countries as we speak. What is the specific issue with Ukraine? There's no defense other than defending democracy. And the way Adam views democracy ain't the way I view it. So that's not a case for it either. Ukraine is a country that is basically become somewhat of a de facto U.S. NATO colony. Is that a fair way to describe it? It's like a modern day, in a way, colony where we send them money, we send them weapons, even before the war started. I mean, that was the whole Trump thing. Trump was like, hey, can you look into this laptop from hell for me? Or he was looking into the Burisma stuff at the time. It was, hey, can you look into this stuff that looks kind of strange with Biden when he was VP? What happened? And then we'll give you the weapons after that, which you can say is savory or unsavory, but that's obviously not impeachable. But my point is, Trump gave them the weapons. We've been doing this ever since 2014, playing this game with Ukraine. What the hell we care about Ukraine for? Russia could take over all of Ukraine tomorrow, and I wouldn't care less, especially if it avoided nuclear warfare. Adam Kinzinger right here is basically saying if we let nukes prevent us from action, what he's saying is I don't care about the threat of nuclear warfare. That's what that means. That's a member of Congress right now saying we got to get involved directly. Not to mention Ukraine's not a member of NATO. Ukraine has so much beef and so much scarred history, they couldn't be a member of NATO. How can you bring in a country that's already in a civil war, even before this conflict came in? All the fighting on the eastern part of Ukraine, because a lot of them are more closer to Russia than Ukraine. This is a lost state. It's just like there's not even a reason for Ukraine to exist. This isn't like America. The Ukraine doesn't have a founding like we do. And it's perfectly legit for them to give up and say, we surrender. That is an option. Why is that a radical take? And why would I care if they did or not? Maybe that would save the lives of their people. We have not seen any evidence that Putin would be like the guy with the funny mustache and do all kinds of craziness. We have not seen any evidence of that. Adam Kinzinger and many others are openly saying we're good with nuclear warfare. And we can't stand back. We can't stand by and just let this happen anymore. These people are going to get you killed, period. This a cabal and their recklessness, and we know from the end of 2020 last year, or the end of 2020, going into, even before that, the pandemic, the Black Lives Matter, the end of 2020, how a lot of people didn't like how the transition of powers went on both sides. They are going to mess around. If we walk around with our heads in the sand, they will mess around and get us killed, literally. It's not even a game anymore. We're talking about nukes like it's just like nothing. If we let nukes prevent us. He's saying we can't let nukes prevent us from action. Of course we can. What do you mean we can't? Of course we can. And he's acting like this is something new. If we do that, then expect, playing off of people's ignorance, expect literally every country to try and get nukes in a few years? Ever since we dropped the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, countries have been trying to get nukes. Why? I don't even understand how that's even coming up now. This isn't going to start some new push to get nukes. Countries have been trying to get nukes because they saw what we did with those bombs. Russia doesn't have like one nuke. They could annihilate the damn planet with all the nukes they got. Over what? Ukraine? Are you serious? We don't have troops on American soil. We do have an attack philosophically through our educational system, entertainment, with this cultural Marxism, neo-Marxism, postmodernism, wokeism. It doesn't matter what you label it. It is what it is. and it's a fact that it's here. But we don't, and we're not, notice we're not fighting that. We'd rather protect Ukraine than fight to protect Western values. Ukraine had got, and I've seen people, and I love Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk gets me pumped. If any Charlie Kirk fans out there, man, the dude is, I really like Charlie Kirk. Young guy too. But I think he said something to the effect of Ukraine is closer to us culturally, and he was trying to make a different point, but Ukraine is nothing like us culturally. I don't even understand how we're making that comparison. They're a puppet state. We basically put in the government we wanted in 2014, fed them money and weapons for whatever interest, maybe to buffer from Russia, whatever. As long as you avoid war with Russia, whatever. I mean, we're spending money and all that, don't like it, but I don't want nukes to fall. Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, can we all shake hands and say this is complete nonsense? Can we all sit down at the same table and say this is complete and utter dangerous rhetoric?